back, but we'll just get started.
Councilmember Tordillos?
Here.
Campos?
Present.
Ortiz?
Present.
Cohen?
Here.
And Foley.
Here.
Thank you. You have the quorum.
All right. Thank you. We are skipping right ahead to our committee reports and start with our annual or semi-annual city infrastructure status report and turn it over to Manuel for the report.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon. Let me apologize in advance. A little under the weather this weekend, so if my voice sounds a little choppy, that's why. So a pleasure to be here this afternoon to talk to you about the City Infrastructure Strategy Semi-Annual Status Report. I do want to note that we are switching from a quarterly report to semi-annual. And as you know, the semi-annual report concentrates on a number of efforts that are significant or require a lot of partnership within city departments or outside city departments. In addition to what we present to you here, of course, the city departments each have their own workload and priorities they work through, and many of those items come back to council as well. This type of projects are very complex and necessitate a closer look, and happy to be here to present that. I do want to note that as part of this report, we have updated the strategy, just some minor updates that reflect kind of the work that we're working on. As an example, the municipal electric utility workstream was removed, as this effort was paused while the city pivoted to a closer collaboration with PG&E. And that's actually one of the items we're going to highlight this afternoon, is that closer collaboration with PG&E. The way we do this work is that the staff actually meets quarterly, but we'll be presenting to you biannually. And we evaluate how the work streams are doing for each one. And then you'll see the colors next to them. Green means, of course, that it's solidly on track. Yellow means that the work stream is largely on track. You know, there might be some delays on some minor items. And if we have red, that means that there's something that's off track, then we have to look at kind of how to get it back on track or what the reasons might be for it. Presenting to you today, we have 7 work streams that finished in green. We have 8 that were yellow and 0 that were red. So very positive numbers for this semi-annual report. Of our 3 highlights, one of them is partnering with PG&E, and that's something that I am working on very closely. Very happy to say that as highlights, we completed the agreement with PG&E, and we had a public release associated with that agreement. A lot of press associated with it. We have a database that was developed to track large load customers and monitors the obligations. So we have a meeting coming up with PG&E either this week or next week. This week, actually. Erica's letting me know it's this week. We have a new data center development team that's going to coordinate work across city departments, and that's all within the city. And I do want to note, even though it's not part of the report, that we also recently advertised for a new position in the city, which is a data center permit coordinator, and that's going to be working very close with Erica and the rest of the team to help us facilitate those projects. And lastly, the RFQ process for the 159 acres in the RWF property, we're going to that selection process to select the developer for that property, and we expect that will be in front of council for consideration on November 18th, so in a few weeks. We also have the Dearborn Station modernization projects. A couple of key highlights, the acceptance of the configuration of the station, as well as the major related projects associated with that station. In addition to that, as you know, environmental review is key for any project that you do. We have hired the consultants to begin that state and federal review for the environmental documents. And one key item is that the project director role for the Dearborn Station program, which is going to help lead that program, that was actually advertised and it's been closed. And the hope is that we will have somebody in that role by the end of the calendar year. So that's accelerating and progressing. And lastly, we have a public electric vehicle charging infrastructure. We also have a separate item that's related to fleet electric vehicle charging infrastructure. So on that one, we finalized the site selection, and we have 60% progress on the contract. We have 6 sites that were selected: Market Street Garage, Rancho del Pueblo Golf Course, Evergreen Library, Tully Library, Seven Trees Community Center and Library, and Kirk Community Center. We also reached out to all the awardees of the CEC REACH 3.0 grant. We have 3 awardees on that process. And lastly, communication has started with industry groups to talk about future charging programs and what the options might be for that. So that concludes my presentation, and of course, we're available for any questions related to the 3 projects we highlighted today, as well as anything else within the strategy.
Well, that was an efficient report. Thank you for that. Let's move on to public comment. Do we have any public comment?
Yes, we have one request to speak. Lillian, please make your way down to the podium.
Yeah, Lillian Koenig, District 3. I am commenting today on the natural and environment restoration, which is under this plan. I made a copy and it's up there. And it's under also the work stream. It's stated that you are on board and train new staff with community forest urban tree canopy. And then you establish tree emergency contractor rotation and launch citywide free tree program. So my question really is, and especially to Mr. Torrevidos, climate smart and decarbonization mitigation, greenhouse gas inventory, adaptation and resiliency plan, engagement of community, urban tree canopy. As you know, not Supervisors, District 4, Councilman Mr. Cohen, we are constantly replacing our ordinance and non-ordinance trees with other trees to be planted. And it's wonderful when you continue to do that, except when you're driving and you go all over town and you see everything barricaded with wire fences, and it will have these beautiful trees, and you look up and you look under the Planning Commission and you see that 20 ordinance trees, 42 ordinance trees, non-ordinance, 200 trees, 200 non-ordinance, going to be uprooted. So I just want to understand this. When you talk about natural environment and your urban canopy, which Ms. Davis, I believe, is the head of that, I believe, under the urban canopy. I just want to understand how you understand how greenhouse gas inventory, I'm not an expert on this, but when you're uprooting all these trees and planting new ones, how do you understand or put it in your plan and comprehend green gas inventory or decarbonization? I don't get it. I don't get why you consistently think it's better.
Back to the committee.
Thank you for the comment, and we'll start with Vice Mayor Foley.
Thank you. Thank you for the presentation. And I actually didn't have anything to comment on or ask questions about, but you brought up PG&E, and I have an issue in my district that since you're having a meeting with the development team and PG&E, I just want to elevate it a little bit publicly. This is an affordable housing project on Coosier that is the former site of the Chuck E. Cheese property that is in the process of being demoed and constructed affordable housing. But PG&E, there's a little bit of finger pointing in both directions as to where the PG&E permit is. We've been told a PG&E permit has been filed, but then we're told it hasn't. So maybe you could just elevate that for us and take a look at it, because that is delaying the project at this point.
Okay, thank you.
And I'll move acceptance of the report.
All right, we have a motion and a second. I don't see other hands. I'm going to ask a question just about the fleet electrification one that you were talking. I think that was the last slide was about fleet electrification. But I noticed in the detailed report that fleet electrification seems to have been a little bit behind in terms of analyzing locations for charging facilities and others. Do we have a prioritization of where we're going to be electrifying first, how we're going to be building this out, the infrastructure for our fleet electrification?
Great. Thank you, and I'll ask Walter to calm down, but yeah, the item today was specific to public
Oh, the public
infrastructure.
one, not the,
Yeah,
okay.
so one thing we discussed is that for the next biannual report, we'll come up with an update of fleet electrification and be able to provide you an update on that. There've been some changes with CARB that are probably important for the committee to know, as well as to provide that update, but maybe Walter, you can give some high-level points, and then we'll come back with more detailed analysis.
Yeah, and I wasn't sure when to ask this question because it could go under the Climate Smart report later or here, but we do want to accelerate our electrification, and I want to know a little bit more.
Yes, absolutely. So thank you so much for the question, Chair Cohen. Walter Lin, Deputy Director for Public Works. I manage the Fleet Division as well as the Facilities and Radio Communications Divisions for Public Works. In regards to the municipal fleet electrification program, you're correct. We're a bit delayed based on a varying different amount of obstacles that we've been encountering as well too. The Fleet Master Plan, though, that has been finalized this past summer, and we're working towards that to identify the 3 different phases, which includes the conversion of the existing fleet vehicles, also the charging hubs and that infrastructure that's needed and the cost and that timeline, as well as the improvements and the assessments that we need to do at the facilities themselves. So as we're trying to look at either a combination of level 2 or the fast charging level 3 chargers, there is an element where the PG&E electric supply service into those facilities that has to be reviewed as well too. We just don't want to cause detriment into providing too much infrastructure and the feed can't actually sustain that. So within that process, we are looking at a multi-year avenue in terms of how we can best convert our fleet and get more in. Currently, we're about 250, 260 fleet vehicles and about an equal amount of chargers. Those chargers, though, are not in the right dwell locations, if you will. So in that aspect, where we have more chargers in different locations, but not enough vehicles needing charging there, we're trying to see what that current balance might be. But also looking at how do we build in more infrastructure in where we need it and the right type and quantity. So we'll just use one example that Manuel had mentioned in regards to the Kirk Community Center. That is one of our priority sites because Beautify SJ is located there as well too. They have 70 vehicles there. And as we're looking at end of life and new acquisitions, we are looking at the all EV equivalents. As long as we're providing that suitability study that meets their operations as well too, and if they're available on the market and obviously with a budget to purchase those. That site needs charging infrastructure that we currently don't have. So it's the best mix in terms of when are we going to acquire and then trying to get that infrastructure in place so they kind of go hand in hand. Otherwise, it's very similar to what we're dealing with now. It's chargers in not necessarily the right locations.
Okay. So, Chair Cohen, what we'll do is we'll put a comprehensive report for you, and we'll highlight that as one of our next projects for the biannual report, so we can kind of paint that comprehensive picture of where we're at and where we're going.
When we do the next semi-annual.
Next semi-annual report, we'll focus on fleet infrastructure, give you a status, give you where we're going, as well as some of the recent CARB changes that have occurred over the last few months.
And also include in that an inventory of how we're doing when we buy new vehicles and what the replacement ratio has been and why we might make exceptions when we're buying a vehicle and not buying EV.
Correct, yes. We've actually modified several of our policies already, and we're still working on that CARB balance, the California Air Resources Board, where even though the federal regulations, they have taken a step backwards, CARB, although they're relaxing some of the requirements, they are still requiring the compliancy. Yeah,
and I don't want, I wouldn't necessarily say let's just follow what the minimum requirement is. Let's do what's best for our climate carbon neutral goals. You talked about the cost of doing charging infrastructure, and I know you're probably paying attention to some of the new technology that allows us to drop in charging infrastructure without needing to do all the underground wiring and things, and I'm hoping that we're taking a look at some of that and those new approaches.
We're actually looking at a couple different options, Councilmember Cohen, Chair Cohen, sorry, where that could be one of those as well too. We're looking at different models. Whatever's on the marketplace now, we're open to those ideas.
Okay, thank you so much. All right, we have a motion and a second. I don't see any other comments, so let's vote to accept the report. All right, that motion carries 5-0. Thank you so much. And now we're on to our second agenda item today, which is our, if I can open my agenda here, which is our Climate Smart San Jose Zero Waste Element Report. Valerie and team are going to present.
Hi, Hi, good afternoon. Mariana Chavez, I'm covering for Jeff Provenzano, that is on vacation this week. So the report will be presented by our Deputy Director, Valerie Osmond, and our Senior Specialist Program Manager, Megha Prakash.
Good afternoon. My first time in the box here, so excuse me. Climate Smart San Jose was adopted by City Council in 2018. This plan focused on the largest sources of greenhouse gas emissions and identified solid waste as a topic for future consideration. The chart on this slide shows San Jose's community-wide greenhouse gas emissions inventory for 2023, and solid waste-related emissions comprise 8% of San Jose's total, as you can see. In 2008, San Jose adopted its zero waste strategic plan, and the zero waste element will serve as an update to this plan. This element intends to provide a framework to identify the policies, programs, and infrastructure needed to achieve zero waste. In addition to meeting regulatory standards for tons diverted, this element will also incorporate greenhouse gas reduction as a metric to track progress towards San Jose's goal of community-wide carbon neutrality by 2030. The city's current contracted local landfill is projected to close within the next 10 to 15 years. Preventing waste, reducing, recycling, composting, and recovering as much as possible will help prolong the life of landfills. When landfills close, waste disposal costs and emissions will likely increase, especially due to the need to transport waste further away. The city and our ratepayers have benefited from lower rate increases and longer-term stability through our hauler contracts. The commercial and residential contracts will expire in 2032 and 2036, respectively. Staff are researching and considering pilots to assess what programs and policies to include in future contracts. The bar chart here shows the avoided emissions due to recycling, composting, and anaerobic digestion over the past few years. We are fortunate to have a robust recycling infrastructure within and close to San Jose. The proximity of these facilities helps keep our greenhouse gas emissions associated with the transportation of materials low. Many of these facilities are amongst the most advanced in the country and serve as a national benchmark. They also provide employment to San Jose residents. Organic waste decomposing in landfills emit methane, a powerful greenhouse gas contributing to hotter summers and more frequent droughts. Transportation of solid waste also contributes to greenhouse gas emissions. In 2016, the governor signed Senate Bill 1383, which sets statewide targets to reduce the amount of organic material being sent to landfills. Our city programs have already been doing this for many years, even before SB 1383 was signed into law. Since 2008, residential garbage is sorted by green waste recovery to recover organics such as food scraps and compostable paper, and then this is composted. This process is also referred to as back-end processing or mixed waste processing. Since 2013, commercial waste has been sent to Green Waste Renewable Energy Digestion Facility for anaerobic digestion, where electricity and compost are produced for material processing. So what is zero waste? The city, its residents, and businesses, we are all called upon to reevaluate what is considered waste, to rethink what we traditionally regard as garbage, and treat all materials as valued resources instead of items to discard. This slide shows a zero waste hierarchy diagram presented in this element. San Jose is prioritizing programs to reduce waste, which is at the top of the zero waste hierarchy here. Therefore, the city has set goals to both reduce the amount of waste that is sent to landfills and to reduce the overall amount of waste generated in San Jose. Recognizing that there will continue to be some legacy materials, such as treated wood and asbestos, that must be landfilled at the end of their useful life, San Jose's performance measure for zero waste is 90% diversion from landfill. For some context, the city's overall solid waste diversion rate for fiscal year 24-25 was 62%. The city has well-developed programs to divert organic waste from landfill through composting and anaerobic digestion. This is in the middle section of the zero waste hierarchy. We can't get to zero waste through recycling and composting alone. Supporting waste prevention efforts through repair and reuse will reduce the quantity of materials going to landfill as waste. For example, encouraging the use of reusables over single-use disposable items, facilitating repair clinics for the community are great examples of this. Staff will play a supportive role to further zero waste goals by providing tools and resources to residents and businesses through education and outreach. Here's a timeline that shows staff's work to develop the zero waste element. From 2020 to 2023, a team of Environmental Services Department staff and consultants worked to define the scope of this element, which focuses only on Environmental Services Department managed solid waste programs and services which include residential, commercial, construction demolition, and city facilities. As the element serves as an update to the 2008 Zero Waste Strategic Plan, the scope is focused on the property level, which includes those that have garbage and recycling services. This team analyzed the city's net greenhouse gas emissions resulting from the solid waste sector and re-evaluated the prioritization of the city's zero waste strategies. San Jose residents and businesses were given an opportunity to provide feedback on this draft element in the winter of 2024. Following the stakeholder engagement period, the element was updated to incorporate community engagement feedback, particularly on priority strategies. To ensure the element accurately reflects the priorities and concerns of the community, the city conducted a series of outreach and engagement events in January and February of 2024. This included an online open house, a survey, and a community meeting. Over 200 community members, including residents and businesses, provided feedback during this process. This engagement aimed to assess awareness and attitudes towards recycling, composting, and waste prevention, along with understanding critical barriers and motivators related to strategies in this element. Community members indicated that preventing waste is very important to them. They conveyed that they want to see the positive impacts of recycling in their communities and sought more educational resources from the city to help them better navigate waste management, particularly outreach and education. So here are the zero waste elements strategies that were presented in the element, except for destructive disposal, which is the least preferred method. Community action is essential to the success of this plan, and community engagement, as you can see, is one of the foundational strategies of the element. The city will work closely with the community as it carries out the city-led actions, especially to understand what barriers and opportunities may exist to reduce waste and recycle right. Each strategy shown here is supported by one or more city-led actions, and the actions are categorized as either short-term, implemented within 8 years, or long-term, beyond the 8-year horizon. And this 8-year timeframe aligns with our current solid waste hauler contract lengths. City staff are already implementing projects that align with the strategies presented in the element, as well as comply with current regulations. So how are we going to track progress? Staff will track and report progress through the Climate Smart Data Dashboard, which is publicly available on the city's website. The table shown here shows all of the indicators and metrics that the data dashboard will display. The city will use this as a tool to evaluate the impact of its initiatives and programs and identify areas where adjustments or new approaches may be needed. Staff would like to highlight a few projects that are already being implemented in alignment with this element and relevant regulations. The OOPS tag program has been successful in raising awareness on what is recyclable in San Jose and aims to reduce the recycling contamination in single-family households. Staff continue to work with service providers on increased outreach and education. Earlier this year, staff utilized state-awarded grant funding to launch a free compost hub pilot, open to city departments and projects. Based on learnings from this pilot, staff plan to launch a compost hub that is free and open to the public. Staff are currently evaluating several community gardens and city parks as potential locations for this next phase that will be available to the public. Staff are in the process of updating the construction and demolition diversion program. Construction and demolition waste makes up about 1/3 of San Jose's waste stream and represents a challenge because it usually is composed of heavy materials such as concrete and asphalt, which do not break down in the same way as other waste. Staff are also on track to launch the Zero Waste Innovation Grant Program later this year. The program aims to elevate innovative local projects and advance San Jose's zero waste and recycling goals by supporting San Jose nonprofits, small businesses, neighborhood groups, and academic institutions. Staff continue to explore pilot projects to increase diversion from landfills. Staff may seek grants or present budget proposals in alignment with the Elements initiatives in future budget cycles. The City Council approval of the proposed element would allow staff to add these strategies and metrics to the Climate Smart Plan during the next update. This would formalize the city's support for the element strategies, which provide easy-to-follow playbooks that the community can use as a resource guide. Therefore, staff would like to request the committee to accept the zero waste element and recommend this item for full City Council consideration. Thank you.
Thank you so much for the report. Just a quick question on the recommendation. The plan would roll this into future climate smart reports, or would we still receive separate zero waste reports as a committee to be able to talk about this in more detail?
Good afternoon, Valerie Osman, Deputy Director with Environmental Services. Thank you for your question, Councilmember Cohen. I believe it would be as part of the Climate Smart updates, the regular updates.
So the idea is that this would be rolled into Climate Smart, which has a lot of other elements in it as we move forward?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Do we have any members of the public to speak?
Yes, Anne, please make your way down to the podium. You will have 2 minutes to speak.
Thank you. My name is Ian Fierce. I'm here on the behalf of your Bicycle and Pedestrian Advisory Committee. The BPAC strongly endorses the climate goals and would like to give strong support to Council prioritizing and funding programs that directly reduce vehicle miles traveled. The report showed that 51% of the greenhouse gases are related to transportation. San Jose cannot meet its climate commitments.
I think you're asking, you're speaking on the next item on the agenda, not on the zero waste item. But
I think so, but they called me down.
Oh, okay. We'll come back to you. I'm sorry,
Okay.
The next time. Thank you. Any other comments on this one? No comments on this one. Okay. We'll come back to the committee, and I see Councilmember Campos has her hand up.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you to staff for this report. You know, this is something that has been becoming a growing interest of mine because I'm also a representative on the County Waste and Reduction Committee, and so really phenomenal job on getting us the information about what's happening in San Jose. I just had a couple of questions that are my response to the community feedback that we saw in the report. So recognizing that community engagement is one of the foundational strategies, and some of the barriers that were brought up in this report include limited access to recycling in public spaces and difficulty disposing of hazardous waste. I'm curious about any current level of involvement with our schools and our school districts, given that they have a lot of land that is possibly accessible on the evenings and weekends, and to me feel like a very natural fitting partner, not just in terms of their land, but also in terms of their students, and how can we, if we're not already doing so, incorporate some of this knowledge into what our students are learning and experiencing in their daily lives.
Great. Thank you, Councilmember Campos, for your question. We have been engaging with schools and with students and various youth programs through some different outreach avenues directly with individual schools. We're working on expanding some of those efforts. One of the challenges has been that the school systems are actually served by a different service provider, so the city of San Jose does not provide garbage and recycling services to our school districts, but nonetheless, many of the students are San Jose residents, or most of the students are, so we're continuing those efforts and looking to explore other things that engage San Jose's youth beyond schools as well.
Thank you for that information. I think that there's definitely, hopefully, room for partnership. Even if the school districts have a different waste service provider, I understand that Santee Elementary School hosts a monthly bazaar for their residents to come, and it's like a flea market, and folks can, use that as an opportunity to, not necessarily have to leave their community to donate items, but also give these items an opportunity for a second life in their neighborhoods. And so I would highly recommend looking at that. I know it's something that my council office is looking at to see how we can bring that into our district, because we have some neighborhoods that have a lot of blight, and the easier it is for folks to, one, dispose of, but two, if there's a way to give our resources a second life within this circular economy, I think that is something that definitely young people are really interested in. And I think that there's, with San Jose State, right, an opportunity as we have college students who are moving in and out of whether it's dorms or apartments with the furniture, that when I've had dumpster days, furniture takes up a lot of space in our dumpster days, and sometimes I find really good furniture that could have been repurposed or reused. So when I think about, young college students who might be in need of free or very low-cost furniture, but also our neighbors who are transitioning out of homelessness and into apartments could also be benefactors of free or reduced-priced furniture. And so I wonder what it would take for our city to be able to offer that connection to our residents so that they can be part of this recycle environment and really lean into building stronger partnerships overall. And definitely I want to lift up that education piece. I don't know if Vice Mayor Foley learned anything on her trip to Japan, but in videos that I've seen online about Japan, they talk about how that is a foundational part of their education early on. And from what I've heard, Japan is a very clean place, and I don't think it's a coincidence that they have that learning early on, and that it is visibly seen in the country. So those are my remarks. Thank you for listening. And I will move to accept the staff report on the zero waste element report. Thank you.
I think the motion includes the entire staff recommendation, which also rolls this into, although I'll and rolls this into the climate smart plan going forward. I'm going to feel a little nervous about it, because I do think that these topics sometimes are valuable to be more expanded upon, and the more we roll these reports together into fewer reports, it seems like the less, it's sort of like the infrastructure report, right? We get highlighted on just 2 or 3 items every time we hear it. We don't necessarily talk about other ones that may have been important, and I just want to make sure that zero waste and some of the other parts of this continue to be given the space that they deserve going forward. If we're going to have more things rolled into Climate Smart, I mean, it's fine if the Climate Smart report is a more thorough report and is longer, but I do think it's important that we continue to talk about waste, we continue to talk about electrification of our fleet vehicles, but if we roll these things together, we often highlight just a few key initiatives and don't hear about them. So that's my concern. I mean, I'm okay with giving it a try, but I don't want to lose that more granularity that we're supposed to dive into as a committee. I also want to thank Councilmember Campos for some good ideas and thoughtfulness about community outreach, and I think actually it's a great thought that doing it through schools and teaching kids is really good. Kids come home from school and say, hey, I learned about a way to get, I mean, I know that when my kids were in school, we heard a lot from them about the way things are supposed to be done, and so I think it's a great idea. One of the things that's hardest about zero waste and about our garbage system is just I think the confusion people have about how it works, how they're supposed to throw things away. One is over the fact that we keep our compost with our garbage. I still hear from people who I think knew this, but say, well, what am I supposed to do with my composting? I don't think it's clear to everybody, and obviously we need to continue to do good outreach to make sure people understand that. Although, you know, encouraging them to do their own composting is also useful. We've done that with recycling, right? We've put a lot of effort into the recycling part with the audits and all of the notices people are getting. I think that's helpful. The compost side, continuing to help people understand that this is what you're supposed to do is great. And part of the problem is that different jurisdictions do it differently. So if someone moves from one place to another, they come in from another city into San Jose, they don't know that we do it differently. They kind of think people think things should be standardized by now, and they're not. And I think that's important. On the other piece that Councilmember Campos mentioned this as well, people do not understand, and we've had a lot of conversations about this, the question about the fact, or the understanding why or how we commingle our trash in our public spaces in our city while we ask them to separate at home. If you go to other cities around the country, you see multiple cans on the streets, on the sidewalks that say recycling, compost, trash, right? But here in San Jose, we tell you, throw everything in one, we separate it off-site. We're starting to put up notices. I'm pleased about that. Signs on our garbage cans. That was a budget document I wrote a few years ago to get those on there to tell people, throw it all in one can. But I wanted to ask a question. I don't know if we know the answer or not, but we know what our diversion rate is for the pickup at people's homes and businesses. Do we know what the diversion rate is for those commingled public cans? Because it strikes me that if we're concerned about soiling good recyclables at home, are we not doing that in our public receptacles?
Sure, thank you for your question. I don't have a number off the top of my head for the diversion rate for public litter cans. San Jose Environmental Services oversees just over 1,300 public litter cans, primarily in business districts and some of those sidewalk areas, but not, valley
and
transportation, yes, and parks. They tend to, on the public litter cans that you see just outside of City Hall here, we commingle that material primarily because of the challenges that we were having with people scavenging material out of there and breaking the locks on the containers and things like that. So it does not stay as clean and dry as maybe your household recycling does. But I don't have those numbers on me today, but I can get those to you.
Okay. I see you wanted to chime in.
Yeah, sorry. Just wanted to touch base on a little bit of a separate item, but part of this. So certainly, going back to the infrastructure strategy, I do want to note that we have less elements on that as well. But as future reports, we can also always highlight things that the committee might be interested in. So if the committee lets me know in advance, we try to pick elements that have changed over a 6-month period. But I do want to assure you that both the vehicle fleet and the electric fleet are still separate items, are not combined. And obviously with this change to the climate smart, we'll have to work together to figure out kind of what items make the most sense as things advance as well. But if there's ever an interest in the committee for something they want highlighted or emphasized or just updated, please let us know. And we can always do that as well to make sure you're still staying informed. So I just wanted to kind of say that as well.
Okay. I appreciate that. I do want to, shout out the city a bit. I mean, although we have a target of 90% and we're at 62%, a 62% diversion rate is actually pretty high for cities. And so I do want to, pat ourselves on the back a little bit and say that we're doing a good job. That's really impressive. You mentioned that we're a national benchmark for some of these things. And so I do want to appreciate staff and city for the work that we've done in getting there. I asked you this question during my briefing, but I think it bears repeating for others to hear. We read reports all the time. Oh, things aren't really getting recycled. only about 20% of the things across the country get recycled. And I think people, even in the public here, read that and assume that it's true about us as well. And I think it's important for us to explain why we believe that we're actually recycling all the things we claim to be recycling. And so can you repeat the answer you gave me so others can hear it as well?
Sure. Thank you, Councilmember Cohen. Yeah, so we talked the other day about how when we read those reports in the media, those are usually nationwide numbers. And so what I can say is, yes, nationwide, the percentage of recycling or materials that are recovered and actually recycled and reused is probably pretty low. You've got entire states that don't have recycling programs. Here in California, and especially in San Jose, we have been on the leading edge for a long time in the world of recycling, recovering, and marketing all those materials. So in our system, we have privatized haulers that are recycling, collecting the material, sorting through it, and then marketing it. They market that to different companies that purchase these baled materials. Now with China National Sword, the materials need to be very clean. They need to be, those bales need to have very, very minimal contamination. So they're buying bales of plastic or paper or cardboard that are exceptionally clean, and they're paying money for those materials. So they're going to reuse and recycle those materials into something else. So they wouldn't reasonably be paying for sorted, clean bales of material if they weren't going to use it. I think that was kind of the things that we had touched upon last week.
Yeah, and so our big concern about contamination kind of proves the point that we wanting to make sure that our haulers are being able to get as much money as they can for the recyclables, and the fact that they care means that they're actually doing it, right? That's important. The last thing that's important to me is the question of some of the takeout businesses and other places with our plastic. We were the first to do a plastic bag ban, although there's now a state ban, and trying to discourage styrofoam use and switch to compostable. And I think during the pandemic, a lot of this stuff kind of got relaxed. And so I want us at some point to have maybe a little bit more of a report on how well we think that's going and what we can do to maybe make a difference to improve that behavior as well. I think there's an education piece for our businesses in addition to our in addition to having ordinances. It's one thing to say, plastic bags are banned in certain places, you can use them for takeout food. When I go get takeout and I have one container of takeout and they put it in a plastic bag, I say to them, no, here, take the plastic bag back. But very few people do that. People are most likely to take the bag if you get a bag. And I think even an education program to try to encourage our businesses to ask first, do you want a bag, right before giving a bag, so that we can maybe reduce unnecessary use of the bag. As we know, those bags go from the restaurant to your car to your house and then straight into the garbage. It's like 5 minutes of use of a bag that ends up clogging up our garbage system. And we know, and that when we do know on the recycling side, those bags are not recycled by our haulers. So anyway, I just wanted to have us think a little bit more about how we can move the needle further on that element as well. All right, thank you. I don't see any other hands, so let's vote to accept the staff recommendation. All right, that motion carries 5-0. Thank you all so much. And now we are on to our Climate Smart Semi-Annual Status Report. Lori Mitchell, come on down with your team.
Thank you, Councilmember. I'm Lori Mitchell, the Director of the Energy Department, and very pleased today to be joined by Julie Benavente. She is our Deputy Director for Climate Smart, and Ann Bayless, she's our Supervising Environmental Services Specialist. And this item is an update to the Climate Smart Status Report, and I'll turn it over to Julie to give you more information.
Good afternoon. So just an overview on what we're going to cover today, a little bit of background on Climate Smart and the plan update.
as well as our greenhouse gas inventory, some updates on what we've been doing over the last previous 6 months, the March through August 2025 reporting period, and then looking forward at some items coming up as well as our recommendation. So Climate Smart was first approved in 2018 as the city's climate action plan. And we were directed at that time to return with semi-annual updates to our council. In 2019, council declared a climate emergency. In 2021, we adopted a resolution to setting a goal to achieve community-wide carbon neutrality by 2030, and then we adopted our pathway to carbon neutrality by 2030 in 2022. That helped us to prioritize 4 different strategies within Climate Smart so that we can focus on what matters most in terms of reducing greenhouse gas emissions. That included zero-emission vehicles, reducing vehicle miles traveled, electrifying buildings, and also providing 100% carbon-neutral electricity. Climate Smart is now part of the Energy Department, and we work across all city departments to lead, facilitate, and support climate mitigation initiatives towards our goals. And now I'm going to pass it over to Anne to talk a little bit about our Climate Smart Plan update.
Thank you. So as we mentioned a little bit earlier, we are bringing forward the first administrative update to the Climate Smart San Jose Plan since it was adopted in 2018. This update is administrative in nature. It maintains the core strategies and long-term goals of the original plan while formally incorporating council-approved actions such as the carbon neutrality by 2030 goal and the natural and working lands element. The update streamlines metrics so that we focus on the most impactful actions for reducing greenhouse gas emissions and use data that is readily available and can be reported regularly. Instead of static city action plans, we are transitioning to annual departmental work plans that will connect climate actions with both greenhouse gas reductions and the cost of implementation. This will provide council and the public with a clearer picture of progress and resource needs each year, though the exact reporting format and process are still being developed. It's important to note that this is not a full rewrite of the plan, and it does not introduce new long-term goals. It does not add new major financial commitments beyond what council has already approved through the budget process. The original 2018 plan included a comprehensive financial analysis of strategies, and this update builds on that foundation without reopening the financial assumptions. It's important that we recognize the great achievements that San Jose has made over the last several years. Since the city's approval of Climate Smart in 2018, city staff have completed biennial community-wide greenhouse gas inventories and track progress on Climate Smart metrics annually via the online data dashboard at sjenvironment.org/CS dashboard. San Jose City Council has also taken many landmark actions, and city departments have put several precedent-setting programs into place. These include San Jose Clean Energy, electrification and EV infrastructure building reach codes for new construction, Bike Plan 2025, the Climate Advisory Commission, building electrification incentive programs, and the city's work has received local, national, and worldwide recognition, including in 2022 and 2024, mitigation and adaptation badges from the Global Covenant of Mayors for Climate and Energy. In 2024, San Jose Clean Energy ranked 6th on the National Renewable Energy Lab's Green Power Program, and we were ranked as the 5th greenest city in the United States by Wallet Hub in 2024 and have been among the top 10 since at least 2016. So we are bringing forward the first administrative update. The purpose is not to set new goals, but to keep the plan aligned with Council's adopted carbon neutrality by 2030 goal, recent policy changes, and updated data. Key changes include incorporating the Council-approved carbon neutrality by 2030 goal and strategies from the natural and working lands element, streamlining metrics to focus on the most impactful actions for reducing greenhouse gases, replacing the old city action plan with annual departmental work plans, which are more flexible and align climate actions with budgeting priorities each year. aligning with new state and regional policies, including SB 100, the 100% zero carbon power by 2045, and California's Advanced Clean Cars 2 regulations, which are 100% zero emission vehicles by 2035. We're also adding new interim milestones for 2027 and updating some 2030 targets, only in areas where the city has already surpassed the original 2030 goal. The 2040 and 2050 goals remain unchanged. Importantly, the update also adds language acknowledging that San Jose is not currently on track to meet its 2030 carbon neutrality goal and that accelerated action will be needed. In terms of engagement, we included both community and internal input. Public engagement reached residents through events, multilingual outreach, ads, webinars, and the Conveo platform, generating over 200 comments. At the same time, we worked closely with more than 40 staff from 8 city departments to ensure the update reflects citywide priorities and operational realities. We also brought the updated plan to the Climate Advisory Commission and the Youth Commission. Together, this feedback strengthened the clarity, transparency, and direction of the plan. Now I'm going to pass it back to Julie.
So ahead of our plan update, we did release the San Jose's 2023 community-wide greenhouse gas inventory. It's our most current inventory. We're currently working on our 2024 inventory and expect that to be completed in this calendar year. Based on that inventory, transportation remains the largest source, making up 51% of emissions, followed by natural gas use in buildings at 21%. Compared to the 2017 Climate Smart Plan baseline community-wide inventory, we're down on emissions about 16%, which does show meaningful progress. But compared to 2021, emissions have actually increased slightly by 0.2%. While generally trending downward in community-wide emissions, San Jose is currently not on track to meet our 2030 carbon neutrality goal. We have initiated internal strategy sessions to evaluate our current climate goals and identify our recommendations for next steps. Part of this report and semi-annual update is to talk about some of the work that's been happening across departments in the city. And you can see a list of the varying departments that have been working on climate smart initiatives. Some of the highlights from this past 6 months include the deployment of new bike share e-bikes, as well as new bikeways, the installation of EV charging in multifamily properties, the launching of our battery storage incentive for residential customers, and the distribution of incentives and zero interest loans to support residential building electrification. Also, I want to highlight some of the great work that's happened around obtaining external funding and resources to support climate initiatives. The total external funding executed for the fiscal year 24-25 was nearly $4 million. Between March and August 2025, our reporting period, city staff applied for over $3.6 million in new external funding and was awarded over $4.6 million. These resources are helping to advance projects such as transit station access and circulation planning, biking infrastructure, public EV charging, and extreme heat resilience initiatives. While progress continues, the hold and reduction of some federal funding is significantly impacting our ability to move forward with major initiatives like EV charging infrastructure and building energy policy development. For example, DOT was originally awarded a $1 million grant through the EPA's Environmental Justice Government to Government program to expand bike share access, which was executed in January 2025 and consequently rescinded later in January due to shifting federal priorities. Looking ahead, we have quite a few things coming forward and several items that will come to City Council. On the clean transportation side, San Jose Clean Energy will launch EV instant rebates of up to $4,000 for income qualified customers, and will continue building out bikeways and expanding the East San Jose Mobility Project. For building electrification and energy, San Jose Clean Energy will also launch the Go Electric Advisor to provide residents with electrification and solar and battery guidance, and also expand the peak rewards for smart homes program. In terms of planning, staff will release the draft Climate Adaptation and Resilience Plan for public review. It's actually out right now, and complete adoption of the Connect North San Jose multimodal plan. Our recommendation is that you accept this Climate Smart semi-annual update, approve our Climate Smart plan update, and transition to annual Climate Smart plan updates to T&E and City Council starting in this fiscal year. The latter recommendation is to align with some of the changes that have happened with the T&E, the reduction in T&E meetings, and to be able to still come back to provide these updates. And now we'll go to questions.
Okay, well, thank you so much, Julie. Let's start with public comment, and I know that Anne is first on our list.
Thank you. I'm Ann Ferris. I'm here on behalf of your Bicycle Pedestrian Advisory Committee. The committee strongly endorses the climate goals and would like to give strong support to Council prioritizing and funding programs that directly reduce vehicle miles traveled, decrease car dependency, and ensure equitable access to clean and safe transportation options. We can't meet the climate commitment without a significant shift in how people move around the city. This means bold, sustained investment in infrastructure and programs that make it easier, safer, and more affordable for people, especially those in the underserved communities, to walk, bike, and use electric micromobility options. Programs that support e-bike access, Vision Zero initiatives, safe bike lanes, and pedestrian-first street designs are not just climate solutions, they're equity solutions also. They reduce transportation costs, improve air quality, and make our streets safer for everyone, especially children, seniors, and those without access to a car. I urge you to fully support and expand all initiatives that reduce vehicle miles traveled and car dependency across all neighborhoods. Continue to provide equitable access to e-bikes and active transportation as you are doing, and expanding the shared bikes in needed areas of the city. Prioritize the bike and pedestrian safety through protected infrastructure and traffic calming measures, and align transportation investments with our climate smart goals and the general plan for sustainability, not with more car-focused solutions. Thank you for your leadership on climate action. Continue to act boldly and equitably. Thank you.
Back to the committee.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Ortiz.
Thank you, Chair. I also want to thank staff for their very important presentation. I really appreciate this report, especially because it includes racial equity as an impact analysis, because we already know that our underrepresented and historically marginalized communities are experiencing the greatest impact for climate change, and yet often in many cases do not have access to resources to participate in or contribute to climate initiatives. So I really I appreciate that this is elevated in this report. With that being said, I do have some questions. So how successful have we been so far at reaching these populations, right? Especially for non-English speakers. Are we seeing any sort of measurable outcomes as we're engaging these targeted communities?
So I would say, there's quite a few initiatives that are happening in the city, and I know several of them have specific goals around reaching disadvantaged communities. Some of the incentive programs through San Jose Clean Energy, some of the other programming that's coming through the Department of Transportation, and also even from our Climate Adaptation and Resiliency Plan, where we did focused work with disadvantaged communities to get input on the plan itself. So I think that's part of it, and we're constantly looking at ways that we can make it easier, just in terms of getting information out and translations, and even cutting above and beyond as needed to be able to reach these communities. So we're definitely, I feel like it's always a work in progress, but I think that in terms of climate initiatives, that we're pretty at the forefront of that, and, you know, for the city
Great.
work.
No, I 100% agree. I think there was just a report that showed that we were #1 city in the country in regards to the work we've done to address climate change. But definitely would like to see in future presentations if there's some sort of metric or measure of our ability to communicate, at least whether that's rebate programs or other sort of support programs for these populations, because I want to make sure that they have access to these, because many times they're not able to access them. So it'd be good to look at some data about our ability to connect with those, especially individuals who live in apartments. And that goes to my next question. How are we approaching like the implementation for renters and residents in multifamily housing? So I know many climate smart programs like energy retrofits, appliance rebates, or electric vehicle infrastructure can be more challenging to deploy when they're in apartments, and especially, you know, in residents for the east side. I don't know any apartments yet that do have this sort of infrastructure. So how have these conversations gone?
Yeah, and I would say that typically when we're having incentive programs, and I know San Jose Clean Energy does do this with their incentives, is it will have increased incentives often for disadvantaged communities, and also trying to streamline how those are, or how you're able to qualify for those, because that can also be a detriment, right, of trying to get paperwork together or something. So we usually will look at existing programs where they've already qualified, and being able, you know, those type of things can help to streamline some of that. So, and so, yeah, there definitely is a constant kind of interest in being able to reach out directly, a lot of times working with community-based organizations, or even doing targeted mailings or outreach to be able to reach the disadvantaged communities.
Appreciate that. You know, maybe good in the future to see like maybe some data in regards to that targeted outreach. You know, every district has, you know, these populations, thinking District 3, Guadalupe, Washington, District 5, you know, Polkaway, things like that. It'd be good to see like, oh, we were able to do this amount of this in this targeted neighborhood. That would be helpful for us to understand. But I know that you guys are doing a good job. It's easier for me to be able to go to my community and say, look, we're making this level of measured growth in our populations. Because, you know, for many cases, some people may feel like there's a little bit of, you know, classism in some of these conversations when you talk about climate change, and that it's only for one population over others. And so I just want to make sure everybody has equal access.
Yeah, just along those lines, one thing that we can provide you with some data on, especially with San Jose Clean Energy rebates, is, you know, who is by district, who is taking advantage of the incentive, so we can reach out and brief you on that.
Yeah. Or maybe I could be reaching out to property owners or something like that.
Yes, we'd love to partner with your office on that.
Sure, wonderful. And then finally, I wanted to just reference, you know, I heard it during the city infrastructure status report that was a couple moments ago, but it seems like our city is moving towards, you know, exploring partnerships and cultivating city infrastructure for data centers. And I know that data centers do consume vast amounts of energy. Much are still generated through fossil fuels and leading to significant gas emissions. What I don't want is for us to look one way, the other way for corporations, but then go to our working poor populations and expect them to move the needle for climate mandates or other climate issues. So what I just want to understand is that in San Jose, right, the San Jose data centers, right, and I know that they're currently not the major contributors to gas emissions now, but that can change, especially if we are creating incentives for them. Those type of things can change. So what are we doing in San Jose data centers so that we're reducing the threat of gas emissions that are seen at other data centers?
Yeah, that's a great question. I can start it and then maybe also pass it to Manuel. So data centers, like all new customers, would be automatically enrolled in San Jose Clean Energy. Right now, San Jose Clean Energy's default product that they would be enrolled in is 60 to 65% renewable and over 95% carbon-free. Of course, they do have the option to opt out and take service from PG&E. And then additionally, we're working with them on, you know, what type of on-site resources they may want to deploy. You know, some of those could be carbon-free, but some may have impact. So, you know, I would say we're analyzing that, and turn it to Manuel for more comments.
That's good.
Thank you. Yeah, still learning the system
No
here.
worries, no worries, no worries.
Yeah, no, that's a great answer, and obviously we are working with them to be part of San Jose Clean Energy and be part of that power mix. In addition to that, most data centers do have their own internal requirements for power and carbon neutrality, just from a pure organizational standpoint, where they're trying to meet certain goals. So from a carbon neutrality perspective, most of the major data center providers and most of the major companies already try to achieve goals beyond what's typically required. So in San Jose, we don't have a specific policy, but with San Jose Clean Energy and their internal ones, typically that carbon neutrality is more aggressive than your standard customer.
Okay, well, I'm really happy to hear that, and so I just want to repeat. So you said 60 to 65% will be used renewable energy, I think you said, and then majority is going to be carbon neutral? I think you mentioned.
So right now, Green Source, which is the product that most residents and businesses all across the city are enrolled in. We have two products for customers. One is Green Source. The other is Total Green, which is 100% renewable. But most customers are enrolled in Green Source, and right now that's 60% renewable. We think in the next few years it'll be 65%, and it's 95% carbon-free. And just building on what Manuel had said, we are in the middle of looking at other custom rate tariffs that these customers may be interested, where they want to go beyond that Green Source product, and that will come to council for consideration as we develop those types of custom rate tariffs for these customers.
Great. Well, I mean, that sounds good. So I'm just going to ask you, so we're confident that through our existing infrastructure and through the work of your team, we're not going to be seeing, the levels of gas emissions or impact into our environment that we may see with data centers in other regions?
Right.
Okay.
As long as they maintain San Jose Clean Energy customers, I think we can say that, and I would say we're working very hard to retain those customers in San Jose Clean Energy.
All right. Well, thank you for your answer. I appreciate that.
Yeah, thank you. And just on that question, in my district, of course, there's 2 data centers under construction and 4 more being proposed, and I talk to the developers of those all the time. And every data center developer that I've talked to is completely committed to a clean energy plan. I mean, they as you said, they go beyond. They want to be sure that they're 100% carbon-free in their data centers, at least the ones that are building here. I can't speak for ones building elsewhere, so we're going to continue to ask those questions every time a project comes in. All right, Councilmember Tordios.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, staff, for the very detailed report here. I had one question just as I was looking through the 2030 carbon neutral pathway assumptions, and it was assumption 2.2, which speaks to electrification, and it mentioned 14.3% of existing homes electrified each year. Just to confirm my understanding, would that be essentially tens of thousands of homes across the city being electrified each year?
Yes, that would be, I think, in the original figures, it was somewhere around 13,000 or so.
Thank you. And I'm curious, just because we recently had the REACH codes, and we were looking at kind of rate of permits getting pulled for, air conditioner replacements, and it was kind of around 1,000. So do we have a current baseline in terms of electrification progress on an annual basis?
That was actually one of the very difficult metrics that we had in the original plan, which we did not include in the update because there isn't really a great way to say this house is and this house isn't. So what we changed it to was to look at natural gas usage and to be able to measure the reduction in natural gas usage instead.
Thank you for that. I think that I agree that seems like an easier to track target here, and I appreciate the acknowledgement that it doesn't really seem like we are on track to meet our 2030 goal here. Looking through some of the other assumptions, a 25% reduction in VMT from 2019 to 2030, where we're currently sitting 8% above 2019. The progress towards zero emission vehicles, somewhere in that 80 to 80% adoption rate by 2030, where we're currently at 8%. So I appreciate the introduction of these kind of interim 2027 goals, but even with these new kind of interim goals, it's not clear to me what the strategy to try to reach some of these more aggressive targets actually is. Looking at the natural gas goal, it looks like roughly a 50% reduction penciled in between 2023 and 2027, a doubling of commercial rooftop solar generation between 2023 and 2027, and an 8x increase in the share of zero emission vehicles between 2023 and 2027. So I look at this and I'm just fairly concerned because it seems like we're essentially behind on all of our kind of pathway strategies to reach the commitments that we'd made. And then even if we were to satisfy all of those pathway strategies, there would still be that gap between kind of the current work plan and reaching carbon neutral in 2030. So appreciate the acknowledgement that we are running, pretty significantly behind schedule here. And I know that the memo spoke to some sort of upcoming strategy session this fall. Was curious if staff could just speak to what opportunities we might have moving forward, hopefully get back on track.
Yeah, thank you for your comments, and you are correct. Our 2030 goals, as we always knew, would be very challenging to achieve. We are meeting internally as staff to look at those 2030 goals and come up with recommendations to council around that and around, what is achievable over the next 5 years and how we might make further progress on them.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember. We'll turn to Councilmember Campos next.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, staff, for this incredibly important work. I mean, climate is, in spite of what others may think, a very real threat to our communities. And so I just want to pick up on what Councilmember Tordillos was saying about, looking at our goal for 2030 and recognizing that in the timeline, right, 2019, we declared climate an emergency, and we're acknowledging that we're not making progress, but we're reducing our meetings to 1 time per year. So can staff please elaborate on the thinking behind why we should be meeting less towards achieving our goal if we're not making much progress?
So our intent for just doing fewer updates is really based around the city's shift to less frequent transportation and environment committee meetings and trying to align with the city's priority in that shift. So that, and we actually also the other part of it is that we do have other items that come forward. So there was some feeling of redundancy a little bit in terms of the items coming forward. So that, for example, the program's roadmap from San Jose Clean Energy comes forward once a year in March. The Transportation Department has 2 items that they do annual updates to transportation and environment on the move. San Jose update, as well as a regional transportation update. And so we do have more than just the time that we're coming forward with our semi-annual update, where you will get updates on climate initiatives happening across the city.
Yeah, I did want to add that although this item's only going to be coming twice a year, as you know from the report, for example, one of the key elements associated with it is electric vehicles. And we had a separate report today on electric vehicle infrastructure. In addition to that, we'll come with you with a separate report on fleet electric vehicles. So there's other things that touch this item that will be coming to the T&E committee as well.
Thank you for that clarification. And I will come back to just elaborate further on what I heard. But on page 32 of the full report, there's a topic for future consideration, equity metrics and co-benefits, and it says a future equity element could help ensure that climate actions reduce disparities and deliver co-benefits like improved health, air quality, and job access. So when can we expect to hear that topic that has been slated for future consideration?
So in order to be able to do that work, we would need budget allocated towards that, and so it would just need to be made a priority in terms of the budgeting process. We have put that forward several years for consideration.
Okay. Thank you for raising that. I guess I just want to clarify for my understanding, am I hearing that I understand the redundancy, right? But equity is a clear, not just value, but I think priority overall for the city organization. And so when I asked my second question, it sounded like we are deprioritizing our climate goal for 2030. So is that an accurate statement to say because of resources or city priorities, or how would you help us be able to explain to our constituents what is happening with our climate strategies and how we are actually making progress towards our very ambitious 2030 goals, and also recognizing that we have less federal funding to work with. So I just, want to make sure that the wording is right for this action that we're taking.
Yeah, I wouldn't characterize it as deprioritizing. We know that climate is very important, and as staff are very committed to moving this forward. I think in terms of reporting, we're just trying to streamline and be more efficient based on feedback we've gotten. So this item will come to council, in the fall. San Jose Programs Roadmap will come in the spring. Other items related to transportation will also come to this council. But also that does free up some staff time to actually work on the initiatives and move things forward. So we really are thinking that would be a more efficient process. But to your point about the 2030 goals, they are very ambitious, and we knew that when we sent them. And so that is why we are sitting down as staff this fall to look at those goals and really take a look at, what has worked well and what should we continue to do? What do we need to, kind of rethink and relook at? And then what new things should we add that really could move the needle faster? And so we expect to come back to council in the fall of 2026 with some of those recommendations. We'll start as staff and then get community input and then come to council with more formal recommendations around 2030.
Thank you for that. I'll just end on this because what Councilmember Ortiz said about equity is incredibly important, recognizing that our city's historically marginalized communities like East San Jose and other neighborhoods like some in my district have very, through previous generation policy intentionally been kept out of communities that are healthy, that are able to provide all the benefits of the climate resilience that we're looking for throughout the city. So, even though the staff memo highlights the racial equity impact analysis, looking through the entire document, the word equity is sprinkled in, but I don't really see any intentional framework that demonstrates that this work is rooted in equity. And even some of the programs that we're talking about, like the fact that we hear more, we'll hear more about the EV charging station and the EV vehicles, but in our equity priority communities, it's going to take more than EV vehicles and charging stations to really create that transformational change that we need to see that is going to further our climate goals. So that is why I bring up that piece about the topics for future consideration around equity metrics, because as I understand, the voters passed Measure E, and Measure E gave the city the understanding that equity needs to be a part of, Measure I. Thank you, Councilmember. Measure I. So that's my understanding, that equity is not just something we sprinkle into reports, but really should be foundational and a leading core component of the work we do. So I just want to express my concern and caution around these goals, because the more progress that we make is going to benefit some of these historically disadvantaged communities. And so I really don't want us to not be diligent in this effort among our other council priorities. So I'll end my remarks there, but thank you. Sorry, did you want to respond?
Just to say that I really appreciate your remarks, and it's always an area where we can do more, but just wanted to highlight a few areas where we are very focused on energy and equity, and there's many other climate-related actions across the city, but just a couple of them. Our SJ Cares program is a program where we give 10% discount to our low-income residents. That's about 25% of our customers with San Jose Clean Energy. And then we have over a dozen different incentive programs, from heat pumps to electric vehicles to battery storage, where we give an additional adder to communities of concern. And so the rebates and the incentives, we've always prioritized giving more of those to those communities of concern. You are correct, though, there's always more to be done and more outreach. We also have a solar access program that's won a lot of awards where our lower income and environmental justice communities get 100% renewable energy at no additional cost. So that's a program that we've had for a number of years. So there are definitely areas that we've had some success, but absolutely take your point. There's always a lot more work to be done there.
Thank you, Lori, and thank you again to the team. I truly, truly appreciate the work that you've done and the opportunity, like you said, to do better for our community. Thank you.
Thank you. And first I want to thank my colleagues for some really thoughtful questions and conversation in this report. I'm going to start by thanking Lori and Julie and the whole team for the integration of the Climate Smart with clean energy. This just happened. This is the first report we've had where this falls under clean energy and not under our Environmental Services Department. And I had skepticism as we were moving things around in the spring, but I think we can see today the real synergy between those departments and the value that having our climate goals and our Climate Smart program being driven under the department that's also providing clean energy to our residents, I think is actually really positive. So I just wanted to start by saying that. It was already mentioned, but just in the last month, Wallet Hubs did say we rank us as #1 green city in the United States, so that was pretty exciting. I don't rest on that. There's a lot more to do, and your slide on page 9 shows it, and Councilmember Tordillos mentioned it. I mean, the fact that we've kind of stalled is, eye-opening and should be concern to all of us who care about this topic. We certainly, I think we all kind of, I wasn't here when we first made the commitment, but was here for some of the other actions right after, and I think it was pretty clear that there are low-hanging fruit that you can do in the first few years, and those low-hanging fruit, I think, have made the transition on that graph, that first slope, happen. But now we're kind of done with low-hanging fruit, and it gets harder. And we have to all be aware that it's going to get harder, and we have to be willing to take some real risk and do take some real action. And so I just want to highlight that one more time. Also, the slide right before that on page 8, we're not going to achieve our goals if we focus on the 51% only on this pie chart, but we have to focus on the rest. While we're still kind of working our way through figuring out what are the right approach for our existing natural gas, what we were talking about last month at our council meeting was that orange slice, which is 21% of this graph, and without making a difference there, we're not going to achieve our goals, and we have to be figuring out what is the approach that we're going to take to drive that part of the chart smaller as well. I wanted to just ask a question about the way we're integrating our Climate Advisory Commission. Again, that's also somewhat of a new thing. I'm excited that we now have a group that's made up of experts who are hopefully advising our city, and not just as many commissions do, hearing reports right before they come to the council, but being able to get involved early enough to take advantage of that expertise and help us figure out how to do better. So I don't know if there's any feeling that you have about how we can utilize, especially since you said you're going to re-huddle and figure out, now that we're flattening off, what are our next steps. Maybe that Climate Advisory Commission would be a good group to get involved early to help us make some plans.
That's a great point. We are very lucky to have our Climate Advisory Commission, and to have the ability to get feedback from our esteemed colleagues that sit on that commission. And so absolutely we will get their feedback as we're thinking about our 2030 goals and how we can make progress faster. I would say we are working pretty diligently to get items to them, in enough time for them to provide input and feedback. And there's a number of items that they also discuss that don't come to council, but is good for us to hear their feedback in terms of the work that we do and ultimately some of the items that come to council. So thank you for raising that.
Yeah, thank you. And then just on the budget question, obviously one of my big frustration is too weak of a word, but obviously given the federal government has basically decided that the opposite of what is the right thing to do is the right thing to do, much of the funding that we talked about in order to do some of these higher reaches was counting on government money, especially federal money, through things like the infrastructure plan and others. And so we're going to have to be even extra creative in how we do it on minimal, on minimal funding levels. So just a comment there. And then the last thing I'll just say is, back to the question of what annual report, I do kind of agree with Councilmember Campos that, we're not achieving our goals and we're also cutting back on the report. But I also understand when we come back in the spring with Clean Energy Roadmap, that is integral to the success of this program. And so perhaps rolling some kind of report about Climate Smart into that program's report to say, here's the reason why we're requesting these particular programs go in this coming year, because these meet these goals and help us achieve the things we're trying to do for Climate Smart, will give us that extra opportunity to have a conversation about this roadmap. And with that, I don't think we had a motion yet. So, but before I need to make an amendment to the recommendation from staff. The recommendation is to accept this Climate Smart report, to approve the updated plan, to approve the change from semi-annual to annual for this committee, and to cross-reference to an upcoming council meeting, and the date should be December 2nd and not November 18th. So with all of that, is there a motion to accept the staff recommendation?
I'll make that motion with the report to council of December 2nd.
Second.
Okay, great. We have a motion and a second, so let's vote. All right, that motion carries 5-0, and thank you all for the report. And now we're on to our final item for the day, which is our Vision Zero program status report. John.
Thank you, Chair Cohen. John Risto, Director of Transportation. Thank you so much for the opportunity to present the Vision Zero program status report this afternoon. I'm joined by Jim Bittner, our Division Manager, Vision Zero Traffic Safety Division. And I believe we're going to be joined by Police Department Lieutenant Hatzenberger, but I don't see him here yet. He should be here soon. And Tim Clay's Bicycle Pedestrian Advisory Committee. Now I'd like to turn it over to Jim to walk through the details of the status report. Jim?
Thank you, John. Good afternoon, T&E Committee. I'm Jim Bittner. I'm the Acting Division Manager for the Vision Zero Traffic Safety Division, overseeing the Vision Zero Quick Build, School Safety, Neighborhood Traffic Management, and Walk and Roll programs. Thank you for the opportunity to present the latest Vision Zero program status report as part of our biannual updates. As we talk about the Vision Zero data, I want to take a moment to acknowledge that these are more than just simple data points. Each number represents human beings, our neighbors, our loved ones, and that's really what drives our vital work forward. With this, I'd like to turn it over to Vice Mayor Foley.
Thank you, Jim, and thank you for bringing Vision Zero forward. One of the things we used to start our Vision Zero meeting was with a reading of the names of those individuals who've lost their lives to crashes on our streets. So I will read off a list of those individuals who have died on our streets in traffic crashes since our last report, which would have been February or March. Unidentified pedestrian: Hector Cruz, Florence Taylor. Unidentified pedestrian. Unidentified pedestrian. Unidentified driver. Unidentified driver. Bella Vieira. Savannah Stevens. Unidentified motorcyclist. Robert Bobby T. Taylor. unidentified passenger, unidentified driver, unidentified pedestrian. Antonio Joaquin Rosas, Amador Garcia Palomares, Catalina Galindo, unidentified cyclist, unidentified driver, unidentified pedestrian, unidentified pedestrian. Adela Naldoza, unidentified pedestrian. Monica Violette Ibarra, unidentified passenger. Matthew Ryan Antangon, unidentified motorcyclist. I just want to emphasize that these are individuals who lost their lives again on our streets through crashes, and totally preventable in 100% of the cases. These are human beings. These are members of our community. These are mothers, fathers, sisters, daughters. So let's take a moment just to acknowledge them. Thank you.
Thank you. Today I'll be providing a brief overview of the trends in traffic fatalities and severe injuries over the first 6 months of 2025. As a reminder, the 2025 Vision Zero Action Plan calls for 30 by 30, a 30% reduction in all killed and severe injury crashes by 2030, and 0 by 40, eventually eliminating all KSI crashes by 2040. These charts illustrate KSI trends for the first 6 months over the past 10 years. Each color band signifies the months of the year. The chart on the left shows the number of people killed or severely injured in traffic crashes in San Jose during the first 6 months of each year from 2015 to 2025. Since 2015, the numbers have increased nearly every year, reaching a peak of 144 in 2023. However, in the past 2 years, the numbers have started to go down, a positive sign, but still higher than it was 10 years ago. The chart on the right shows how many people were killed or severely injured due to speeding or red light running over the same period. 10 years ago, the numbers were relatively low, but starting in 2018, the KSI numbers began to rise sharply, also reaching a peak in 2023, but more than double the level seen in 2015. There was a notable increase during COVID's peak in 2020 and 2021, where there were significantly less cars on the road. Risky driving, like speeding and red light running, increased and led to more severe and fatal crashes. But in 2023, with traffic now starting to normalize, high KSI numbers still continued, showing that it was not just a pandemic-related issue. But on the bright side, the past 2 years have seen these numbers notably drop to 44, then 34. This is encouraging, but still higher than pre-2018 levels. On this slide, the chart shows the number of people killed in traffic collisions during the first 6 months of each year from 2015 to 2025. In most years, fatalities were generally consistent, ranging from 21 to 26. However, there was a major spike in 2022, likely from that COVID empty road syndrome. In the first half of this year, there were 15 traffic deaths, a meaningful decrease compared to recent years. This decrease aligns with the trends across America. The National Highway Traffic Safety Administration recently released early estimates for traffic fatalities for the first half of 2025, and they project an 8.2% decline. But in San Jose, we have a 38% decrease in traffic fatalities. While this decline is great news, it's an important reminder to remember that every life lost is one too many, and traffic fatalities remain a very serious issue. The downward trend reinforces the need for increased investment in traffic safety efforts, including safer street designs, enforcement, and public education. Next, I'll present on the Vision Zero's projects and efforts that are now in progress using existing staff and resources. Leveraging new state legislation and aligning with the city's ongoing efforts, the city proactively reduced the posted speed limits on 23 roadway segments, with City Council approving this action on August 26th of this year. Approximately 75% of KSIs occur on streets with speed limits of 35 or higher. With this effort, 22 segments of 35 miles per hour or higher were reduced by 5 miles per hour. An exciting new development is the creation of 2 publicly accessible data dashboards as part of the short-term strategies noted in the 2025 Vision Zero Action Plan. These dashboards will improve transparency, engagement, and accessibility, and are still in draft form with online deployments expected later this year. The first dashboard is for all crashes, which provides a comprehensive interactive map of all San Jose crashes reported to the police department, as well as tabulated summaries of crash types and all injuries involving pedestrians and bicyclists. Note that there are several filters available on the left. And the second dashboard focuses specifically on KSI crashes to align data analytics in the Vision Zero Action Plan's main goal to reduce and eventually eliminate KSI. This dashboard also provides summary graphs and data filters, but a special note are brief descriptions of every single crash on the right. In addition, several Vision Zero efforts and initiatives such as traffic safety cameras, traffic education, and traffic engineering will also be reorganized and updated in our new Vision Zero traffic safety webpage, which will be accessible through the tabs at the top of the screen. The next update is for one of our new initiatives, the Quick Build Priority Safety Corridors Project Evaluation. Last year, we completed the 1-year study on Hillsdale, and in this year, we have completed 3 major corridor evaluations: 1-year Kirtner Avenue, 1-year Saratoga Avenue, and 2-year Center Road evaluations. The 2-year study for Hillsdale Avenue is currently in progress and planned to be completed by the end of the year. We plan to share the before and after summaries for each corridor on the DOT Vision Zero traffic safety webpage. Another exciting update is our newly completed traffic safety education initiative, funded by a $50,000 grant from the Office of Traffic Safety. The grant funded the production of 10 short educational videos, along with translations and social media ready versions to help expand our outreach. The videos covered a range of important safety topics, all listed on this slide, such as safety at night for bicyclists and pedestrians, slow turns, and leading pedestrian interval. All videos were created by Annie and Kat LLC, the consultant who also produced many of the city manager's office's videos. They worked closely with DOT staff to ensure the content was accurate and effective. All 10 videos were launched at the end of September and are now being shared across city platforms and social media to maximize community engagement. This was a low-cost, high-impact effort to promote safer behavior and increase public understanding of traffic safety across San Jose. Next, we'd like to share one of the traffic safety education videos we just launched, this one focusing on how to safely navigate a roundabout. While roundabouts improve safety and traffic flow, they can be unfamiliar to many road users. This short video walks through the key things drivers need to know when approaching and using a roundabout. Let's take a look.
Round and around we go. How we do it, nobody knows. Constructing more roundabouts is part of the City of San Jose strategy to engineer safer streets using low-speed human-scale designs. Well-designed roundabouts improve traffic flow as well as pedestrian and cyclist visibility. But the benefits of roundabouts require all of us drivers to work as a team and understand the rules in order for our communities to benefit from the design. Well-meaning drivers pausing to let others into the circle interrupt the flow of traffic. So, What should you do when you approach a roundabout? Prepare to enter in a counterclockwise direction. Yield in. Let circulating cars pass before you enter. Cars inside go first. Flow through. Once in, keep moving unless it's truly unsafe. Signal out. Let others know you're exiting. Check twice. Watch for people walking or riding. When we share the road, we share the responsibility. Learn the roundabout rules and help keep San Jose moving.
So these are really exciting short videos that really are something we're excited to share with the community, the schools, and our web pages. Moving on, I'll now shift on to the Vision Zero team's ongoing collaboration efforts. As part of our Vision Zero program, we've been working to further improve the quality and completeness of San Jose's crash data, a key step toward better analysis and more effective safety solutions. Expressway crash data in our city crash database has historically only included intersection crashes. But earlier this year, we started the full integration of all corridor expressway crash data into our database. This now provides a more accurate picture of our high-speed corridors. We also began incorporating railroad-related fatalities into the internal crash database. This work is still in progress in collaboration with the federal government, DOT-IT, and our DOT railroad teams. Another ongoing effort is improving data sharing with neighboring jurisdictions. We're actively working with them to include shared jurisdiction crash data in our system to ensure that regardless of which police department shows up to take the crash report, our database will include all crashes on these shared roadways. In parallel, we've been evaluating the crash data entry process itself, looking for opportunities to automate and streamline how this data is accessed and entered, which will help reduce manual data entry. This work is being done in close collaboration with the police department and is currently in progress. Altogether, these improvements will give us an even stronger data foundation to support our Vision Zero goals, helping us identify trends faster and take more targeted action to prevent KSI crashes. We continue to strengthen our collaboration with other jurisdictions and organizations to advance Vision Zero goals across the region. As of August, our Walk and Roll Safety Education Program has 105 participating schools, up from 90 last year and 60 3 years ago. It's a significant expansion of our youth safety education efforts across San Jose. We've been coordinating with the City of Santa Clara's new Vision Zero Action Team, which developed their own Vision Zero Action Plan this year, a great sign of regional alignment on safety priorities. We also engaged in our knowledge exchange with the City of Los Angeles to learn about their Vision Zero website and their data dashboard. The key takeaway was that their dashboard was built on an external vendor's platform, which unfortunately limited the city's capacity to update it manually. At the regional level, MTC relaunched its Regional Vision Zero Working Group in July, and we've rejoined this collaborative forum. We also participated in a Vision Zero Implementer peer exchange, connecting with over 30 cities across America to share lessons learned and best practices. And finally, we were honored to take part in an interview with leaders from the California Safe System Leadership Institute and leaders from the Vision Zero Network at the national level, continuing to raise San Jose's profile as a committed Vision Zero city. With that, I'll now turn it over to Tim Claes, a member of BPAC, to share a few remarks. And I will return afterwards to answer any questions. Thank you.
Honorable council members, my name is Tim Claes. Thank you for the opportunity to present the San Jose Bicycle and Pedestrian Advisory Committee's report as part of the Vision Zero program status report. As representatives of the city's active transportation community, BPAC mission is to ensure that walking and biking are safe, accessible, and attractive options for all San Jose residents in ways that align with Vision Zero and the other city council adopted goals and policies. Our trail network is one of the city's greatest assets. Yet, in our view, it remains underutilized, especially during winter months. Maintenance and enforcement on trails and bikeways do not receive the same priority as automobile travel lanes. Persistent standing water, debris, and safety concerns discourage use and force residents back into cars. We urge the city to prioritize trail maintenance and enforcement, address drainage issues in partnership with Valley Water, and ensure that trails are reliable year-round. One single choke point can render an entire trail unusable, undermining millions of dollars in investments and our climate goals. We commend the city for lowering speed limits on key corridors and urge continued implementation of the Better Bike Plan 2025. Aligning street design standards with our general plan will help make walking and biking the default, especially in urban villages and downtown. We encourage the city to use upcoming planning cycles to further prioritize protected bikeways and pedestrian-first design. Vision Zero's goals to eliminate traffic fatalities is critical. We support quick building safety improvements, speed and red light cameras enforcement, and transparent public dashboards to track progress. We also ask that resurfacing projects fully implement complete street standards and that any exceptions will be flagged for BPAC review. Bike theft remains a major barrier to mode shift. We urged a focused effort by SJPD, including prevention education, targeted enforcement, and special attention to schools and public spaces. Organized theft undermines sustainable transportation and youth mobility. The latest Move San Jose report shows that per capita vehicle miles traveled is rising, while walking, biking, and transit remains underused, even though nearly a third of all trips are under 2 miles. We must invest in safe, connected networks and prioritize people over cars. Rapid deployment of quick-built bikeways, sidewalk extensions, and high-standard intersections are essential. Finally, as San Jose prepares for major events like the Super Bowl and World Cup, BPAC stands ready to support creative solutions for welcoming visitors and advancing our mobility goals. We would like to refer you to BPAC's attachment to the Vision Zero report for many more details, and I am happy to answer any questions as well. Thank you for your partnership and commitment to a safer, more sustainable San Jose.
And with that, I'll open up to questions.
Okay, thank you. Do we have any members of the public?
Yes. ACOS, please make your way down to the podium.
Akush Soboslai. Vision Zero ignores safety improvements that can be obtained at almost no cost. In most states, the word expressway means freeway. Capitol and Almaden expressways, formerly named Avenue and Road, have the highest crash rates for pedestrians. They are crossing the road. The word expressway, along with a few remaining pedestrians prohibited signs, mislead car drivers to expect pedestrians not to be in the expressway vehicular traffic lanes, as for freeways. So they are killed, most crossing in crosswalks, and 1/3 are killed when jaywalking across the expressway. Street signs in San Jose do not need changing. See left photos. State law gave no authority to prohibit pedestrians from expressways. So I and others forced the majority of pedestrians prohibited signs removed. If there is a sidewalk behind a sign wall or on an adjacent street, as for Lawrence Expressway, post guide signs, not pedestrians prohibited signs. See example of each. The BOS approved this way back in 2003. A further safety improvement is to post bike lane signs because all expressways are required to have bike lanes by the BOS. Bike lane signs are only randomly posted on expressways, causing driver harassment of bicyclists, thinking bicyclists are prohibited. The vehicle missed me by inches while honking its horn. I caught up with the driver at the red light, yelled at me, "Get off the road, bicycles prohibited." Informing drivers that these are bike lanes, not freeway shoulders, will increase safety.
Back to the committee.
Okay, thank you so much. We're going to start with Vice Mayor Foley.
Thank you. Thank you for the presentation from all of the presenters. Tim, I'm glad to see you here from the from BPAC. And I'm really glad that you're all here presenting again on behalf of Vision Zero. A few months ago, we actually sunsetted the Vision Zero task force, and there were some concerns that we would be losing focus on the important work that is occurring at Vision Zero. But clearly, that isn't the case. The fact that you're here and the fact that we have several initiatives going forward aggressively means that we are truly focused on reducing fatalities by 30% in 2030 and removing them completely by 2040. But this takes a lot of work, and a lot of it depends on the people who might be listening to this, the community members out there, and those who are not. And that is, we have passed 3 new initiatives, or we're getting ready to install cameras in 2 different areas that I want to highlight. One is the red light cameras that are up and almost ready to be activated. They will be there. We have them in 4 locations throughout the city. It's public where those are. I don't have those listed right now. I'm sure you can tell us if someone asks the question. I know there's one on Camden and Bascom in my district. I know there's one in D2. Probably one in your district, and yeah, and those are all related to speeding. That we know that speeding is the #1 cause of fatalities on our streets. I think the statistic is 48 individuals have been killed on our streets from speeding. And did I see one of the slides said 282 severe injuries from speeding? Totally preventable by irresponsible drivers who are speeding because #1, they think it's not going to matter. #2, they didn't plan enough time to get where they're going. So the red light cameras, it's going to be an expensive ticket. Initially, there will be a warning, but after 60 days, then it will be a ticket and it will go on your license. That's one effort we're doing to reduce speeding and to make awareness about it. The other is the speed cameras. The speed cameras are to be installed towards the end of next year. Funding, once we secure the funding. These will be 33 cameras that will take a picture of the back license plate of your car as you speed through an intersection. So be cautious, be aware, drive safely, please. The other thing that was mentioned is the reduction of speed limits on many of our streets that we were allowed to do, thanks in part by the state government. They allowed the legislation to allow us to have some independence over reducing our speeds, and that's really important. So I'm hoping all of those strategies will help us move forward. I just want to give a shout out for one of our staff members at the Department of Transportation, Anna Lay, who is involved with our communication outreach on both the red light cameras and the speed cameras. And I know she's been out there everywhere. She's been in my district. She's probably been in everybody's district at this point to just give you all a heads up. So I know the people right here in this room are not those who are speeding, but please tell your friends, your family members to slow down. And I will also, John, I want to give a shout out to you and the rock and roll team. Last week at many of our schools, it was International Walk to School today, and John was out there, and a lot of people were out there just encouraging our kids to walk and ride to school. Some of my school district schools are doing that this week. They were closed last week, so they're open and doing the same thing this week. Please watch when kids are present and drive safely. I don't have any questions. I'm so encouraged by the work that you're all doing and excited that what we handed off from the task force to T&E is becoming a reality and still and is moving through to success. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Next. Oh.
I'll move approval and acceptance of the report.
Second.
Okay. Now, Councilmember Campos.
Thank you, Chair. And I want to begin by thanking Jim and your team for this presentation. Thank you, Tim, for being here representing BPAC. My takeaway from this report is that this year, bless you, we have made progress towards eliminating traffic deaths on our roadways, and really appreciate the highlight on the increased participation of schools in our walk and roll program. As Vice Mayor Foley just pointed out, it is a fabulous program, and I was participating in my school and had a really fun time thanking the students and their parents for walking and rolling to school. So I last week also had the pleasure of joining Director Risto, DOT and Public Works staff, as well as the Vice Mayor and Mayor in District 2 for the press conference of the installation of the red light running cameras along Monterey and Branham in District 2. That is one of the most dangerous roads in our city, so I appreciate the attention from staff in areas of high propensity crashes. I think that this is a tool that is moving us in the right direction to discourage reckless and dangerous driving on Monterey Road, and I know that many of my neighbors in South San Jose are grateful and looking forward to having safer streets in our neighborhoods. We know that this is a one-year pilot, and as Vice Mayor mentioned, there is a little bit of time to ramp up before full enforcement. And so we are looking forward to the data and the feedback that this pilot program teaches us as we understand the impacts to traffic safety along this corridor and throughout the city. And I think many of us on the council can agree with the spirit of these safety measures. I do just want to learn a little bit more about the communications and engagement plan to make sure that our residents are fully aware of the potential impacts that are related to the enforcement, because I know particularly for my constituents in that area, we have a lot of monolingual Spanish speakers, monolingual Vietnamese speaking families. And so when we're looking at a $400 ticket, it is a huge setback for people who are living paycheck to paycheck. And I want to make sure that we are doing everything we can to give folks a heads up. So would you please remind the committee what proactive outreach is being done in communities that are going to have these cameras implemented in their neighborhood, especially where there are neighbors speaking a language other than English in their home?
Yes, thank you. There have been 12 neighborhood leadership and town hall meetings that started in January to the end of June this year. It's reached at least 400 residents and neighborhood leaders. At each of the town hall meetings, Spanish and Vietnamese interpretation were provided. Fact sheets were also provided in multiple languages: English, Vietnamese, Spanish, Cantonese, and we also continue to work closely with the neighborhood leaders to inform the community about the 2 pilot programs that are coming. We also did an announcement and provided the fact sheet at the neighborhood leadership conference last Saturday that had over 300 neighborhood leaders in attendance. We'll do another round of engagement next year as part of the speed camera program, which will also include radio ads, billboards, yard signs, street light banners, all in multiple languages. We'll continue to engage with all of the residents in San Jose to ensure that there's open communication. Also, we'll be working on a regional speed camera program next year in collaboration with San Francisco and Oakland, which will be an outreach program to ensure the whole Bay Area is aware of the new program. And with that.
Thank you, Jim, for that information. I also just wanted to bring up the fact that in the recently adopted Vision Zero 2030 plan, there is a prioritization of equity and vulnerable road users. And so in line with this priority, the plan largely focuses on the implementation of big projects such as the Walk Safe San Jose plan. So with the retreat of the federal government, are there any federal or state funding obstacles associated with implementing the Walk Safe San Jose plan? And will we receive an update on this plan in future Vision Zero reports?
Thank you, Councilmember John Rista, Director of Transportation. That is a a tough question right now, not knowing where the federal government's going to land on actual grants that we received previously that we're still trying to resolve. Going forward, it's unclear whether or not those kind of equity considerations or even safety are going to be fully considered in their grant programs. But nevertheless, we're still going to try to pursue federal grants. I think it's brighter picture on either state or regional local grants, especially with VTA being a local funding agency, with Measure B, which is a multimodal program of sales tax. So that's where we're actually funding our Safe Routes to Schools program right now. So that's Measure B coming from VTA directly to us so that we can actually do that whole school safety. So I think that's a shining star. The state still has opportunities out there for us as well, but it's just uncertain where the federal government is.
Thank you. Let me ask a little bit more into what those state opportunities are, because one opportunity that our BPAC chair wrote to us about is SB1, the Road Repair and Accountability Act, which increased gas taxes to fund local government repair, roads, bridges, and investing in transit and active transportation. So can you please share the decision-making process around SB1 dollars, and what are the limitations for us to leverage these dollars for active transportation projects in San Jose?
So yeah, thank you. That SB1 is a pretty big program and a good one for the state and for local agencies like us. We do get and SB1 is actually a gas tax increase, so it comes directly from gas vehicles using and paying for gasoline. So we get a formula fund every year through SB1 through the state. Primarily, it's intended for pavement repair. That's what that was initially all about. We then use that it's pretty flexible. We use it to repair the streets, and then when those streets we're intending to actually maybe change the configuration of the striping to add bike lanes and other crosswalks, we're able to do that with that fund. So primarily, we put new pavement down, but then we get to restripe the way we want to do that with those, which always we're looking at trying to make that roadway safer. Some of the SB1 funds do go into other programs at the state. Primarily the one that comes to mind is the State Transportation Improvement Program, which is a pretty big competitive program statewide. Tends not to have much in the way of like ped bike, but there are some projects that get funded in that.
Okay, thank you for that response. I just want to end my remarks with a strong encouragement to partner closely with our friends at the county around the expressway system issue. Although our expressways are maintained by the county, they are a part of our city's network, and this requires collaboration. So look forward to hearing more progress on our Vision Zero goals, and those are all the questions I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Tortillas.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, staff, for the report. I'm particularly excited by all of the progress in expanding our bicycle network in San Jose, and excited about some of the upcoming improvements to the downtown bicycle network in particular. But one thing I've experienced when using, these networks is that they're kind of only usable if they are free and clear. And I know that I've heard from constituents, and I've seen myself, issues, particularly in downtown with, dumpsters obstructing bike lanes, idling vehicles, parked vehicles. So curious if the city collects any data on bike lane obstructions, and if that data is publicly available.
Thank you, Councilmember. Although we are working with both our Environmental Services Department to re-educate both homeowners and businesses about barriers within bike lanes, we don't have that data in this committee, or excuse me, in this report, but we're working on it through our bicycle pedestrian work that we're trying to do to make sure that that gets a better response, because we do encounter quite a bit of barriers in those roadways. Parked cars can sometimes do that, especially in a downtown area. Those, we do try to be proactive on trying to inform motorists as well, but they're harder to get to because they're probably there for 3 minutes and they're gone, but they still block a bike lane. But the barriers that we're trying to work on with our other department, ESD, is probably the one that's the more problematic that we're trying to correct.
Thank you for the response. And on, I guess, the question of vehicles in particular, I know some other cities have looked into, resident-driven reporting structures where if you report a car that is parked or idling or whatever it is, blocking, a bike lane, there's the possibility of a citation actually stemming from that report. Curious if the city has explored any options around additional reporting infrastructure here.
Well, we have heard about that, but in terms of issuing citations, we have not pursued that because it's either have to be a licensed officer or a parking compliance officer that can only cite vehicles. So we haven't looked into actually having citizens patrols do that sort of thing, no.
I guess I was curious there just because if it's something like 301 where we have, photographic evidence of a vehicle obstructing a bike lane, if there might be potential for more follow-up there to, again, kind of educate people, but then also nudge people towards compliance.
Sure. We're open to all that. It's just that I don't know the practicality of implementation of those things. But we always try to keep up with all that.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. And then the only other element I'd mention here, we spoke about the red light cameras, the speed safety cameras that we have coming. I think looking at opportunities for automated enforcement of keeping some of these rights of way clear so that they can be universally useful and accessible to all of our cyclists will help to maximize the investment that the city is making in expanding its bike network coverage. And then my other question here was around daylighting, and so the city's progress on implementing changes from AB 413. Curious if you could provide a little bit of an update there.
Thank you. Again, very good question, and that law has now gone into effect. And so what daylighting is on the approach side of an intersection. We're supposed to hold that back, either a red curb or signing or other, for about 20 feet. If there's a bulb out, it can be 15 feet. So as you can imagine, we have tens of thousands of intersections or approaches in the city for us. So what we're trying to do is sort out what we're going to do from a programmatic or a systematic standpoint of how we're going to address it. Do we do it through our pavement program and still try to maintain the speed and the progress that we have with that, or should we be doing it in a different manner? But literally, we're talking of thousands and thousands and thousands of them and just trying to figure out where to put that. We have made some changes already when we've had, mostly in the downtown or the commercial areas, we've pulled back metered parking spots from those areas already because they really were more of a standout. So anything that was within a metered parking spot, we've already pulled those back.
Thank you. Yeah, this is something I care a lot about. I've seen it kind of both as a pedestrian navigating downtown, cars that are in that daylighting zone where you kind of can't have good visibility crossing the street, and also on the other side as a driver when there's vehicles parked too close to the intersections, makes it difficult to see pedestrians who are queued up waiting to cross the street. One of the things that I was looking at here was the relative parking citation revenue from San Jose and some of our peer cities. Notice that San Diego brings in about 2 times as much parking citation revenue per capita as San Jose, and San Francisco is something like 8x the revenue per capita. Not that revenue should be our primary goal here, but if there are certain types of enforcement that have the potential to both improve safety and then also generate some revenue that might be able to be reinvested back into things like implementation of painting red curbs or other traffic safety improvements, I think there's the potential for kind of doubling our impact there.
Yeah, thank you. Those are good comments. And
thank you.
We, just on that, I think the council has seen before the difference in the number of officers that San Francisco has versus San Jose. We're going to be approaching, when we hire the next batch of parking compliance officers, we'll be at 50, and San Francisco is about 450. They have a much more aggressive program citywide in terms of parking enforcement. We would rather see compliance without having to do that, but again, I think you can see the size and scale is quite a bit different.
Thank you.
Thank you for all the great questions. I don't see any other hands raised, so let's move to vote on the motion. Okay, the motion carries 5-0. Thank you so much for the report. We're on to open forum.
Anthony, please make your way to the podium. Back to the committee.
Okay, the meeting is adjourned at 3:39 p.m. Thank you.